You stand in the center of a circle drawn in white chalk. The air is thick with burning frankincense. You are about to speak an ancient, terrifying name found in the pages of a forbidden grimoire, attempting a ritual that your ancestors believed would bend the forces of the cosmos to human will. Your heart pounds in your chest. What are you actually doing? For hundreds of years, pop culture has fed you a lie about demonic summoning. It insists this is a supernatural transaction, a desperate, unholy bargain. You give up your immortal soul, and in exchange, a horned beast grants you immense wealth, destructive power, or petty revenge. This is a medieval fairy tale. It is a fundamental misreading of esoteric technology, designed by institutions to keep you afraid of your own mind. Look closely at the actual historical texts, like the Lesser Key of Solomon. Specifically, examine the section known as the Goetia, a 17th-century compilation drawn from much older, rigorously guarded esoteric traditions. The instructions inside are obsessively precise. You must fast for days in absolute silence. You must cleanse yourself in specific herbal baths. You must memorize complex geometric seals and recite hours of hypnotic, rhythmic incantations in languages you do not consciously speak. Why such grueling, exhaustive preparation just to strike a bargain? Because the entity you are summoning is not arriving from the underworld. It is rising from within you. In 1904, the notorious occultist Aleister Crowley wrote an introduction to his translation of the Goetia that shocked the traditional esoteric community. He stated plainly that the demons listed in the ancient books are not literal, autonomous monsters roaming the ether. They are, in his exact words, portions of the human brain. Their respective seals, or sigils, are not supernatural beacons, but methods of stimulating specific neurological pathways. Magic is not a spooky parlor trick. Is it possible that ritual is actually a targeted psychological operation? Consider the work of Israel Regardie, a psychotherapist and occult scholar who meticulously documented the Golden Dawn system of magic. He recognized that the elaborate physical rituals of ceremonial magic were mechanical systems designed to bypass the critical, conscious mind. The prolonged fasting weakens the ego's daily defenses. The heavy, choking incense alters your sensory processing. The repetitive chanting induces a state of light trance, dropping your brainwaves from the waking beta state down into the fluid, highly suggestible theta state. What happens when the rational mind is forcibly shut down? The unconscious mind wakes up, and it speaks in the language of monsters. The 72 demons of the Goetia, with names like Baal, Asmodee, and Marchoses, are described as holding highly specific domains of influence. One teaches astronomy and liberal sciences. Another grants unshakable courage in battle. Another destroys the dignity of your enemies and reveals hidden treasures. Think critically about what these powers actually represent. They are suppressed human potentials. They are the raw, unfiltered drives that civilized society forces you to hide away in order to function politely. The pioneering psychiatrist Carl Jung mapped this exact phenomenon decades later, calling it the shadow. The shadow contains everything you have repressed. It holds your blinding anger, your ruthless ambition, your deepest physical fears, and your unacknowledged, terrifying creative genius. When you deny the shadow, it controls your behaviors from the dark. When you confront it, you reclaim its fractured power. So let us reconstruct what that ancient initiate actually did in the flickering candlelight. You have fasted until your body is light and empty. You are exhausted, yet intensely, singularly focused. You stare at a geometric sigil drawn on calfskin until your vision blurs and the sharp lines seem to float above the parchment. You begin to chant, pulling heavy oxygen into your lungs, hyperventilating just enough to alter the chemistry of your blood. You vibrate the ancient name. You are not inviting a creature from hell into your physical room. You are commanding a fragmented, exiled piece of your own psyche to step forward and face you. This is exactly why the ritual explicitly requires the construction of a magic circle. The circle is not a physical shield to keep literal demons out. It is a psychological boundary. It is a mental container holding your core consciousness together while you deliberately induce a state of temporary, controlled dissociation. You need an unshakable anchor when you are diving this deep into the abyss of yourself. The ancient instructions command the magician to never negotiate with the spirit. You must speak with absolute authority, forcing the entity to appear inside a triangle drawn physically outside the circle. The triangle is the space of manifestation. It is the sterile arena where you isolate the chaotic emotion or repressed trauma so you can finally examine it. You do not let it merge with you. You project it outward. You name it. You bind it. You integrate its chaotic energy entirely on your own terms. Magic was never about the supernatural. It was always about the self. Your ancestors mapped the terrifying depths of the human unconscious centuries before modern science had the sterile vocabulary for it. They did not have clinical terms like neuroplasticity, trauma integration, or cognitive behavioral therapy. They used the mythic language of angels and demons, of planetary hours and elemental correspondences. But the psychological technology they engineered was devastatingly real. Institutions like the Inquisition banned these practices not because they summoned literal devils, but because they bypassed institutional authority. A person who can master the landscape of their own mind, who can confront their deepest terrors and emerge whole, cannot be easily controlled by fear. Today, you probably don't draw a chalk circle on a cold stone floor. But the internal mechanics remain entirely unchanged. Every time you sit in the quiet, naming the anxiety that paralyzes you, you are doing the ancient work. Every time you confront the self-sabotaging voice in your head and refuse to let it dictate your reality, you are performing the exact same esoteric operation. You are looking into the dark. You are calling out the shadow. You stand in the center of a circle. The air is clear. You are about to speak a name. And this time, you know exactly what you are doing.